Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Feel It to Heal It podcast. I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. I am about to hop on Morning Tea Live on Instagram and get this party started. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Tea Live. Cheers. So I actually moved Morning Tea Live up an hour. Usually I'm always late. Today I was so early. I was like, you know what? We're just going to go for it because I'm ready to drink some tea and ready to have a little chat. So originally I had a different topic planned out for today. But then as I was heading onto this wonderful land of Instagram, I saw something that really just made me want to have a different conversation today. So that is what we're doing instead. We are having a different conversation. And if you just watched my stories, I posted a little bit about this, but I wanted to elaborate more and have this be on the pod and on my Instagram because I think it's a really important conversation. So I came onto Instagram and I saw two people that I follow who have pretty large followings talk about how one of them was having a rough day. The other one is her life coach and her friend. And she showed a text message exchange, and the response to the bad day was try to breathe, which is great. We want to breathe. And then it was like, can you have some champagne? And then the client is then showing a video of her drinking champagne, having a rough day. And she's like, when your life coach tells you to drink champagne. Now, this is not the first time I've seen something like this on here. I've seen this actually quite frequently where there's this like camaraderie around, drinking champagne or something celebratory when you're having a bad day. Now, listen, you guys know me. I am the celebration queen. I love celebrating everything, celebrating you, celebrating myself, celebrating life. But there comes a time where we have to look at where are we using drinking or celebration or whatever it is as a way to avoid our feelings. I see this so often in the coaching industry where it's like, let's just make everything light and drink together and cheer each other on and drink more champagne together. And it's like, that's fine if it's intentional, right? Like I love champagne myself. If I'm at a wedding and I intentionally have a glass of champagne, great. You guys know I'm not a big drinker, but when I do, like I might have a glass of champagne. This isn't about champagne. Let me make this clear. This is about you looking onto this app and in this world that we live in and constantly seeing people who are supposed to be leaders, people that are coaching other people, people that are healing other people, people that are coaching people who are coaching other people. And this domino effect of what kind of domino effect do we want to spread? Do we want to spread a domino effect where everyone is just drinking when they're having a bad day and then we're normalizing it? Or do we want to spread a domino effect of here's how to actually feel your feelings, where you don't need anything outside of yourself to feel safe to be with what's happening and coming up for you in each present moment. That is freedom. Needing to reach for the champagne or the weed or the sex or the TV or the scrolling or the porn or the video game, reaching for something outside of ourselves with an addictive, avoidant energy rather than an intentional energy out of desire are two completely different things. And I am here to spread the domino effect of feeling our feelings so that when we do decide to have the glass of champagne or the celebratory FaceTime with our, business coach or the balloons or whatever it is, that it's from a place of desire and overflow and actually celebrating rather than avoidance. And so when I saw this, one, it made me angry because I was like, this is exactly everything that I stand against. And it's a reminder that so often the leaders that we have, not only in the coaching industry, but in our society, in our world, are inner activated children in adult bodies. And so much of this is unconscious. So much of this is just wiring of this is how we have learned to cope, right? We've learned to cope through alcohol. The amount of times I see leaders on here just turning to alcohol, posting, It's like they try and brand it, right? It's like they make it very aesthetic of like drinks with the girls, cute cocktail on the plane, cute champagne bottle with flowers, right? Like we love to see these aesthetically pleasing images and think that it's just cute, and sure, sometimes it is, but again, when it's so normalized that it's perpetuating not actually being with your feelings, it makes me so sad that this is the world we live in, that you are paying a life coach and their response to you is drink alcohol. Well, why am I hiring you then? If your best answer is to drink alcohol, I could do that without paying thousands of dollars, right? So why am I hiring you to teach me to drink when that was my old way of relating? If I'm hiring an expander, I want that person to expand me out of my old ways of relating and into new ways. And that's what I did with my mentor. My old way was relating to emotion by numbing it and avoiding it unconsciously and then consciously through TV, through food, through weed, through alcohol, through sex, through distractions, through work, through exercising, through a million different things. My main ones, though, were TV and food. I hired her to help me heal that, not to perpetuate it. And that's what my mentor did because she's an actual leader. She literally helped me not have to turn to food and alcohol and TV when I'm feeling sad or angry or whatever the thing is. She taught me how to feel it. She taught me how to alchemize it. She taught me how to choose how to respond from a place of personal power and emotional intelligence and emotional mastery rather than my inner child. And so when I saw this, I was like, okay, my inner child probably would want to relate to this by messaging them directly and just kind of going off, or even just sending like a nice message, which I could technically do, but I was like, that would more so, I would only be able to do that if it was coming from a neutral energy place, not from a place of control or wanting to change someone's mind or have them see or understand my perspective, right? So I was like, you know what? I can't control anyone else, but what I can do is I can use this to facilitate a conversation of what we can do instead to add to the conversation. Here's one option. You get sad, you have a rough day, reach for the champagne. That's one option. And my response to that is I'm going to add a different option. I want to contribute to this conversation by adding a different option, bringing a different option to the table. And that is champagne not being the answer, and you actually looking at what is happening in your body, what is getting triggered, and how do I want to respond to it? Do I want to go to a temporary thing that's going to take the edge off temporarily? Because what happens when that champagne buzz wears off? You then are left with yourself. You can't avoid yourself. You can avoid yourself, but then you have to come back. You can avoid yourself again, but ultimately you live in your body. So the more you try and run away from yourself, the more you try and numb the pain. Think about a day that you had a rough day at work and you went out for happy hour with your coworkers. Temporarily, you're like, yeah, I'm feeling so much better, right? That's the whole point of alcohol. But then what happens when that buzz wears off? You then have to go home and feel the feelings you were avoiding. But then maybe you don't want to feel them. So then, or it doesn't feel safe to feel them. So then you reach for a hit of weed, or then you just go to sleep, or you're constantly running away. And it's exhausting. I lived that way. I know how exhausting it is to run away from yourself. It is exhausting. It leads to sickness. It leads to anxiety. It leads to depression. It leads to disconnection from yourself. The more we run away from ourselves through all the addictions, and the more we resist rather than surrendering and just being with what is actually inside of our bodies, the more it persists. So what would an alternative have been for that life coach to say? If that were my client, I would say, hey, I know that this is really bringing up a lot for you. I am here with you. Can we just take some breaths together? And I would co-regulate with them I would show them and their nervous system, it is safe to actually feel your feelings, because once you actually feel them and they move through your body, remember, emotion is energy in motion. Emotion, emotion, energy in motion. When that energy in motion moves through your body, it's not there anymore. It's not activated with that same charge anymore. And then you get to feel lighter. So rather than perpetuating it being there by drinking or running away from it, let's get still and look at, what is this actually bringing up for me? Can I feel the emotion? And then how do I want to respond to it? And I am here with you in feeling this. When we are messaging a coach and we've hired a coach, it's because we need co-regulation. We need someone to just be there with us in the depths of our pain, in the depths of our triggers, in the depths of our bodies going into survival mode when they don't need to be. Just saying, I am here with you. Let's take 3 to 5 deep breaths together. I'm not allowing you to run away from this. That is going to be far more effective than responding with your own way of your own addictive and avoidant responses, which is, let's just drink. And that is such a representation. And listen, this is not a judgment. This is actually just a representation of where that coach is at with her nervous system. If she turns to alcohol when she's feeling sad, of course, she's not going to know how to guide other people when they're sad, other than recommending the same thing she uses. This is why we need leaders who have done this healing work. If you want to lead others, if you want to help heal this world, or even if you're not a healer, but you are just someone who doesn't enjoy living in a world where there's hate and crimes and violence and wars happening, none of that would be happening if everyone healed their nervous system and reparented their inner child. Every single person that is condoning a war, like, literally think about that. We live in a world where we think that a war and genocide is an option for solving problems. Like, think about how idiotic that sounds. That is an inner child running the show, an inner child having power over guns and violence. It's all inner children running the show. No one, not one adult who is actually embodied and safe in their body would ever condone. So not one actual adult would condone anything happening in our world right now in terms of wars, violence, all of that. Like, it just wouldn't even be a thing. I want you to really think about that. Like, these things that have been so normalized that are not normal. It is not normal to hurt and kill other people because you're angry about something. Like, literally makes 0% sense. There's no excuse. So the whole point is, until we do the work, we cannot actually lead others in relating differently until we relate differently. Right, Sky? So I want you guys to, first of all, look at what you're consuming on this platform. And when you see people with big followings or big names respond in certain ways, I want you to really look at, does that feel true? Does it feel in alignment with how I want to learn how to relate? And if not, I want you to be really careful of how much you take that in. Because what happens is we end up following people where we can relate to them because we don't want to have to feel the shame of the ways in which we relate. So then we find other people relating that way and we're like, well, if they do it, I can do it, right? If they drink their problems away, well, why can't I, right? It's an avoidance of shame. The more I can relate to people on here, the more I realize I'm actually not growing, because when you actually are growing, when you're actually learning how to relate in a new way, you're not going to be able to relate to a lot of things in our society. And that can feel hard, right? It can feel really hard because we are attachment-based creatures. We want to feel connected. We want to feel like we can relate to other people. But the more that I do this work on myself, the more I release those addictive behaviors, the less I actually can relate to anyone other than the people who are actually like healing and growing with me, right? Because ultimately, if people are just, getting drunk every Friday, and I used to do that, but now I don't, I'm not going to be able to relate to them. If people run away from their emotions and now I don't, I'm not going to be able to relate to them. So we love to connect and follow people on here that perpetuates addictive behavior, like what I just saw this morning, because it helps us avoid our own shame of how we are relating to our own emotions. And it helps us feel less alone of like, okay, well, I guess this is okay. It's not okay, because how does it actually allow you to feel? How does it actually make you feel when you go avoid yourself or engage in addictive behaviors? At the end of the day, the problem that you're avoiding, which is just your emotions that you're relating to from viewing it as a problem rather than just information and emotions that we need to feel as human beings, having human experiences on this earth school, it's still going to be there. So rather than like, these are two people that I have been coached by, I've looked at, I have consumed their content. The old version of me would have been like, oh, that's so cool. They're like bonding over drinking champagne and, ooh, I want to do that too, right? I would have just wanted to fit in. Now I look at that and I'm a little bit disgusted. I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you perpetuating that? Why are you teaching that to literal thousands of human beings? Why are you perpetuating that it's okay to turn to alcohol or substances to numb your emotions? That's not going to help create a more connected, healed planet. It's going to perpetuate everything that we don't want. You have to be better than that. You have to decide to be better than that. And it doesn't mean you're never going to have champagne. It's not about the champagne. It means that, just like how my naturopath would explain, you want to, if you're going to have coffee or caffeine, you want to do it when your nervous system is actually in a regulated state so that it doesn't spike your hormones and like make it more dysregulated. And how she'll only drink coffee when she's feeling well rested and regulated, which is the opposite of how most people use caffeine. I wake up, I'm dysregulated, so I'm going to drink more caffeine, which then makes me more dysregulated. And then it perpetuates more of what we don't want. So it's the same thing. It's the same concept. I'm happy to drink a glass of champagne if it is intentional, if my nervous system is in a regulated place, if it's out of a place of overflow and desire, which I still don't do because it doesn't really make me feel good. Alcohol makes me feel like shit. My stomach hurts. I don't like it. But when I go to a wedding, will I have like a few sips of champagne as we're toasting? Sure. Again, it's not about the champagne, it's the energy in which we're relating to it. So if you're engaging in sugar, caffeine, alcohol, whatever it is, can you notice the energy behind it? Are you able to relate to it from a place of intentionality and desire and just enjoying it, rather than I need this to feel safe. I need this to feel better. I need this coffee to wake up. Why do you need coffee to wake up if you just slept? It literally makes no sense. It's because maybe your sleep is not actually, maybe you're not actually resting in your sleep. So coffee doesn't solve that problem. Looking at the root of why am I not sleeping well, that, which is dysregulated nervous system, that is looking at the root. That actually solves the problem. Enjoying a cup of coffee for the flavor, for the ritual of it, right? When you're in a calm, restful state, that's very different because your nervous system is in a calm, restful state. So it's not going to activate it or dysregulate it even more because it's not dysregulated. But if you're drinking it from a dysregulated place, just like with alcohol or anything else, it's going to further dysregulate it. These are the leaders right now that are running our world, both on a macro level of government and the actual leaders of our world, presidents, right? Leaders in government, And then coaching industry would be like a meso level because it's big. It's a big, social media is huge. We come on here and we absorb information and we have to really like thread apart what information feels resonant, what information is information that is going to help me expand and what do I actually want to absorb in my energy versus what information do I need to look at and say, oh, that is not how I want to relate. I can have empathy for that's how they know how to relate, but it does not excuse bad behavior. It does not excuse behavior that is literally teaching thousands and thousands and thousands of humans that that is how we respond to emotion. They were kind of laughing about it, right? Like, oh, like when your life coach tells you to drink champagne, ha 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 ha. But it's not funny. It's actually really not okay. Like, it's not okay. We need to actually teach each other how to co-regulate, how to hold each other. We can't hold someone else's emotion if we have yet to hold our own. And I bet you if you had asked these two people, they would tell you that they've done the work to heal their inner child, their nervous system. They would tell you they're doing all the healing. But this is why this work actually gets to what all the other healing modalities are missing, because this catches that subtle, sneaky energy where you can say you're healed and yet you're still turning to alcohol for emotions. That's not healed. That's a dysregulated nervous system. That's an inner child not knowing how to hold pain, relating to another inner child that doesn't know how to hold that person's pain because they have yet to hold their own pain. We can only meet others as far as we've met ourselves. It doesn't mean that our inner child never comes out. It means we have to be so honest about when that happens. And then we have to feel our shame of how we related from our inner child and then use that shame to shift our behavior because we love ourselves enough to do that. We love ourselves enough to want to do better. So the first part is looking at what are you consuming on here and what actually feels true for you and not absorbing, not internalizing what doesn't feel resonant for you and how you want to relate, not what validates your stuff, right? We can always find people to validate, well, they're doing this behavior. How do you want to feel? I don't care who else is doing it. How do you want to feel? How do you want to relate? Always coming back to you and what feels resonant and truthful for you. And then the second part is when you find information like that that's not resonant, get really honest and clear of how do you want to relate instead. And open yourselves up to consuming content that is in alignment with how you want to be related. And knowing that there are other options. Champagne is not the answer when you're having a rough day. The answer is actually feeling your emotions so that they don't take over your whole day. Sometimes we're going to have bad days, but we get to choose how to relate to that. We get to choose how long is that bad day going to last. We get to choose, are we going to let this one thing take over our whole day? I had this happen the other day, 2 days ago. I got scammed by someone and it took up a good chunk of my day. And I was like, I don't want to let this take up any more of my precious time and energy because I was feeling really angry about it. So I allowed myself to feel anger. And then I took the action in alignment with someone who doesn't want to let that take up her whole day. So I just kept moving. I felt the anger and then I allowed myself to move and do other things I needed to do rather than just sitting here feeling angry all day. We feel the anger, we breathe, we allow it to move through, and then we move, we act. We don't let things take over like that. It doesn't have to be such a huge, heavy deal all the time. And if it's feeling huge and heavy, it's because it's coming from your inner child. Because if a child got scammed, that would feel really heavy, right? If an adult gets scammed, they're like, oh, that fucking sucks. And I feel angry about it. And how do I want to relate to it? How is this happening for me? And I co-regulated with my mentor. I journaled the reasons why I thought it happened, why I attracted that into my life. I took responsibility for my part in it. And I used it as a learning lesson, not to shame myself, but to learn from it. We can always use things for our benefit, for our growth. We just have to ask, how is it happening for me? So, as we wrap up, just to summarize, sometimes you're going to want to have a drink. Sometimes you're going to want to watch a show. Sometimes you're going to eat the chocolate cake. All of that is okay. All I ask is for you to look at the energy in which you're relating to the thing. Anything can be an addictive behavior, even things that look healthy, like kale and yoga. Yoga can be incredibly addicting. And yoga can be incredibly healthy, right? It all depends on the energy in which we're using it. Are we using it to avoid ourselves? Or are we using it to feel safe? Or are we using it purely out of a place of, oh, I love myself and so I want to move my body? Energy is everything. It's starting by bringing the unconscious to the conscious and getting really clear on the energy in which we're relating to that thing from. I have a client's wedding coming up in a few weeks. I may have a glass of champagne. If I do, it's going to be from a place of, oh, I'm here and celebrating. Okay, I'll have a few sips of champagne as we toast. That's different than saying, oh my God, for example, I have other clients that will be at this wedding. It would be like, as their life coach, if they were like, oh my God, I'm having a lot of social anxiety. I'm having a lot of fear come up. And I'm like, here, just drink the champagne. Just drink the champagne and you'll feel better, right? There's going to be champagne right in front of us. I could easily just be like, here, drink this and you'll feel better. I got you. And they'll be like, ha ha ha, okay, great. No, if I see them trying to drink the champagne, because that probably fucking take it out of their hands and look at them in their eyes and say, you are safe right now. Take some breaths with me, breathe, and I will co-regulate with them so that if they do choose to drink that champagne, it's not going to be coming from a place of external saving. It's just not the vibe anymore. We are so much better than that. It's time we all grow up because we love ourselves enough to, because we don't need to feel this way anymore, because we know better. Once we know better, we can do better. This is not to shame anyone, to judge anyone. It is to get radically honest of how you are relating to your emotions and how that's actually serving you versus how is it keeping you stuck. And I'm not exempt from this. I have to do this every day. I have to look at, oh, am I relating to this thing from external saving, avoiding myself, addictive behaviors? And when I do, I have to be honest about that. I'm not going to then go teach how to do that and perpetuate it and role model it. I'm going to role model how not to do that. That is a difference between an embodied leader and someone who presents a certain way, but has not actually done the work to reparent their inner child. Two very different things. So I would love to know how this lands for you all, and please just be intentional with what you consume on here. Not just go with the crowd, but actually get into your body, connected to your intuition, what lands true for you. Doesn't mean I'm going to unfollow these people. It doesn't mean it has to be this big thing. It just means I look at these two people that I have been following, that I have looked up to, and I realize, oh my God, they are just a bunch of activated children in adult bodies presenting in this like aesthetic way that people relate to. And it makes me angry and sad. And I can't control that. But what's in my power and what I can do is come back to what's in my power, which is to offer my wisdom and my medicine, which allows you a different way. And that is what I'm here to do, is create a different earth, a new earth that you feel safe to feel safe in a new way. And that can feel isolating when everyone else is relating through popping the champagne bottles. And you're like, I don't really want to turn to that. I want to actually feel my emotions, even if you don't want to, but you know that it's going to feel better afterwards. So no, this isn't like the cool option or the one that is going to make people, this is the less chosen path, right? So it can feel isolating, it can feel lonely, but you have to connect to what feels important to you. And for me, I'm so tired of living in a world where people think that alcohol is the answer, that war is the answer, that any type of addiction is the answer. It just perpetuates more trauma, which is not what we want. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Thank you guys so much for being here. And if you are needing support in reparenting your inner child and releasing those addictive behaviors, there's no shame, no judgment. We all have them. I had them all the time. They still try and creep up. I still have to look at where I'm relating, and we get to choose differently. So if you need support, I have one-on-one spots open, and I just opened a new option for a 6-month discounted rate. So my regular rate for 3-month commitment is $2,500 for biweekly sessions on Monday through Friday Voxer support, as well as weekly option. So weekly sessions plus Monday through Friday Voxer support is $3,000. I just added a new 6-month container to my one-on-one program Insight to give people the option to go longer at a discounted rate. So for bi-weekly, it's $2,000, and for weekly, it's $2,500. That's the lowest my one-on-one coaching has ever been like since starting my business. But doing the 6-month container allows us more time to go deeper. And so I wanted to give you that offer to be held in a consistent, safe relational container. Rewiring your nervous system out of survival mode, releasing your addictive behaviors, reparenting your inner child, building that internal safety so you feel safe to create a life beyond your wildest dreams, and doing it at a discounted rate. So it's a win-win. All right. Love you guys so much, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know if this resonates. Let me know if you have questions. These things can be nuanced when it comes to addictive behaviors outside of ourselves. So please reach out with any questions. And if you are ready for support, we have one-on-one, but also if you are not ready to invest at that level, or if you're just needing a little bit of a less low-level touch, I have my membership, which is weekly live trainings and Q&As with me, and a private Facebook community group. So reach out with any questions, head to link in bio on my Instagram, and I will see you in the next episode. Take time to feel it, to heal it. Love you.